What kind of catastrophes are you talking about? Like, what are you concerned about, I guess?
Well, you know, the issue of what is unthinkable is by definition one of those things that it makes it difficult to lay out. There are actuaries who sit down and worry about those kinds of things. For example, if we had something that would happen in the geology of the area or the weather that would dramatically change the environment in which the mine the closed mine would be in, or an open mine would be in.
Schultz, if you talk Majority Leader Fitzgerald about this proposal, and where do you think your caucus is on this plan?
The way I understand your question is, have we briefed the caucus members? Over the last few days, I have been sharing with members of the Finance Committee who are now engaged in this issue, the various elements of the plan. As you can see, most of what is here has really been out there. It's just a sort of a different combination of them. And without the actual language in hand, it was difficult to share it with them. And we also made it clear that we were going to do a listening session in Platteville and reserve the right to make changes, from after that hearing. And we were, in fact, actually giving instructions to drafters late yesterday afternoon, when we discovered that the draft that was given to us was deficient. We hope, as Senator Jauch said earlier, that will get here this morning or quite soon.
So what's been the response from you?
What has been the response from my colleagues? I think generally positive. Both
answer that question as well. I listened carefully to Bob Williams, president of Gogebic Taconite, last week during his presentation. Never once did he cite one environmental policy that should be eliminated in order to make it that is critical for him and his company to proceed. But what he did say is that it is essential that we have timelines and that we have an end date. Speaker Fitzgerald, over the weekend, Speaker Fitzgerald said there would be two non-starters in the bill. He said one is a tonnage tax, which would be considered a tax increase. This does not contain a tonnage tax or a tax increase. We listened carefully to the political reality. The other is he wanted a process that created an end date. We have accomplished both of their stated objectives. This is a responsible plan.
How does this address the possibility that the tribes could tie this up in court for a long time if they're really solidly opposed to it?
I think a couple of things have been important have been learned as a result of this discussion. Two things. One is, I think that the state of Wisconsin, citizens in the state are beginning to understand a lot more about tribal history and legal authority. The issue of ceded territory is now a term that many of our colleagues are beginning to understand when they didn't really totally understand the previous treaties that led to that joint responsibility. The tribe has been given, they can speak to themselves in terms of what process they would take. But the fact is that the tribes are already considered a regulatory authority because they have been given jurisdiction by the federal government to establish water quality standards on the reservation. Therefore, their voice has a strong impact on what happens upriver. The second thing that they could apply for is similar jurisdiction for air quality. They have not received that authority. That creates a reality that there are major players that any timelines cannot ignore. It would be foolish of us as public officials to create fictitious timetables that ignore the reality that the federal government and other authorities are not bound by those timetables. And we tried to do that in this proposal.
Well, they've made it very clear they're not against the mining bill, they're against the mine. So is this maybe a futile effort to say, give any timeline?
Look, we've recognized from the get-go of all of our deliberations that the tribe would have certain authorities for the effort to produce a bill. We had to just set that aside. We understand that and we respect that. But given that, we still sought comment from the tribe out of respect. We asked them to constructively engage, and they have certainly done that. And that should not preclude any rights that they have down the line. The idea is we wanted to consult with them. And the relationship has been excellent in the fact that the dollars, or that the mitigation for this mine has to be done in the ceded territory, is a candid recognition of their authority.
So does this bill differentiate between ferrous and sulfide mining? And that is, does it supplant current mining law, or does it supplement it?
It contains a definition of ferrous minerals and ferrous mining.
And that definition was taken from the Bulow substitute in the Assembly. So again, I think that what we're trying to tell you is we listen to everyone, and this proposal, we think, reflects some of the best ideas, and we brought them together in the Wisconsin way.
Regarding ceded territory, you mentioned that, and it's in accordance to the treaties. Kind of give us a context of what that where that really is. I mean, it's been tossed around,
Sure.
but
Under this does not. Let me emphasize a point that there is nothing in our proposal that weakens environmental policy or changes in environmental policy. This is an enhancement to the current law on mitigation, which allows for mitigation for mining projects. But there is a step process, and that step process includes trying to avoid, that it's minimized, and it is create a mitigation as close as possible within the basin, within the region. We're adding a provision because you know in the wetlands bill there was discussion about creating statewide banks. In fact, that was included in the original bill. We said that as the last item, if it's done in ceded territory, it must be, at the last resort, included in ceded. It cannot be mitigated outside of ceded territory.